Hi, everyone. Welcome. Carl Steinbeck here. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm set up here in the studio with all new equipment, pretty much thanks to my brother John and also Ben for setting up stuff. The only thing I don't have is a new acoustic boards that will go on the wall and ceilings here. So it's going to be a whole lot better than last time. I apologize. Last time I actually cut off the studio or the live stream after 2 days of its posting based on the fact that I forgot to plug in the microphone here. So that was all my bad. So I decided to go ahead and pull it and just rehash a couple of things real quick that I covered last time I was on. But anyway, I got anything from a nice, comfortable chair now from John's to also new screen, new computer, and we already got the super high speed internet service. Hopefully there won't be any glitches this time, and if there are, it's all my fault. But John here is in the house, ready to straighten me out if I mess something up. But I think we're all set now. So thanks for the mods we have also tonight. We have Private Eye Posse as well as Roxanne. So thanks for your faithful support for this. Also, I must say that I was at CrimeCon briefly, was there for one night, got to meet a number of y'all, and it was really a great experience. It was really awesome to see the passion that people had for Justice for Markel's. And we also talked to other creators and creators and content creators, as they call them, I think it is, and podcasters and live streamers. And some of them did know about this case. There's still a lot of other people that don't know about this case, like there should be. I mean, this case is so bizarre. It's got so many issues that are really bizarre, complex. It's really the most, probably one of the most bizarre true crime cases you'll ever find in the history of America. And I appreciate also Roxanne. She told me when she was following the Daybell case, she was plugging this case a lot to follow. So any of you folks that are new following the live coverage of the Daybell case, welcome also. And I urge you to do a lot of research on this case, not only from my channel, but also other channels that may give you more of a backdrop of the crime that happened with this South Florida Markel family that, the Adelson family that was in South Florida, and they had the professor from FSU Law School gunned down his own garage, and it was going on 10 years ago. So it's like a really long time to wait for justice for all the perpetrators of this horrific murder. So right now we have Charlie Adelson. He's convicted. He was recently transferred up to the South Dakota prison because he's had too many threats on his life. They're in the Florida system. And now we also have in the firing chamber his mom. She's coming up for trial. Is this going to be like less than 100 days now for Donna's trial to start? So that's going to be in September as well. She's going to be tried in the same courthouse, and she's currently in the same jail that her son previously was last year. So it's taken them almost 9 years to, over 9 years to get the previous dentist, Charlie Adelson, prosecuted and convicted of first-degree murder and other associated heinous crimes involving the murder like that. And his mom is facing the same charge as well. So she's held in confinement without any kind of pretrial release there in the Tallahassee jail of Leon County. So there's more people involved as well that haven't been arrested and prosecuted, and that's including Wendy, who is a real mastermind behind this. She was the ex-spouse of Professor Dan Markel, and she's still walking free in South Florida. We hear indications she may be moving to maybe go to Austin, Texas. We don't know if that's true or if she still follow up on that. But in any event, the worst place that any Adelson could be is in South Florida. And that's where the Latin Kings are. And that's who Charlie Adelson blamed for trying to extort him. At least one of the members of the extortion racket, he says, was from Latin Kings. And it was all just a bunch of smoke and mirrors stories that the jury saw right through there. And I urge you to listen to the jailhouse recordings of Charlie talking to his mom and complaining over and over again, basically blaming the stupid knuckle draggers, as I call them, Tallahassee folks that are on the jury, and also blaming his sister. He kept on blaming his sister, Wendy, over and over again. How could she show up to the crime scene? How could she write a book basically forecasting, which was essentially the hatred of Dan Markel? So you have all these things that are constantly being complained about by Charlie to his mom on the phone, and Donna's just sitting there going, either saying nothing or going, And so it was really telling how Charlie has no acceptance of responsibility for this. But I think the fact that he's in prison and he's in fear for his life, that can be a game changer for whether he's wanting to come forward, whether he's wanting to tell the truth about how other Adelsons of South Florida were involved in this. So that remains to be seen. I think as long as his mom is still alive, he's less likely to flip on his sister, Wendy. And so Charlie would have been transferred most likely by Con Air, that's run by the U.S. Marshal Service. States can utilize that service. They have a whole network of airplanes, pilots, and marshals that work those planes, and they they haul anything from the convicted criminals to also illegal aliens that have entered the country. So they use those to get them out of the country as well. And so basically it's Con Air. If any of you have heard of the movie or seen the movie Con Air, that's basically what Charlie would have most likely been flown on out of Florida. He probably would have ultimately transited through Oklahoma City, one of their main hubs. And then he probably would have been flown up to Kansas City and then probably hauled by bus or van from there up to South Dakota. And so it was something that they would have snatched him. He would have known anything about it. But trust me, when he gets up there, probably folks know about him already as soon as he hits the front doors of that place and is being processed. And inmates want to know everything about other inmates, especially new arrivals. And so Charlie's going to have a rough time there no matter where he goes. He's going to be notorious. He's going to be infamous. And as I've said, he's the most infamous, notorious prisoner in the state of South Dakota's history. So even though he wasn't convicted there, he's probably never set foot in South Dakota. He's now their most infamous prisoner. And the inmates are going to know that. They're going to be seeking him out. And the thing about South Dakota that's unlike Florida, Florida has this sunshine open records laws that are really great that allows us to see the evidence before the case even comes to trial, whether it's police reports or actual videotape interviews by law enforcement through the state and city there. But what we don't have in South Dakota is any kind of like real detail. They'll just give you generic questions. I've been on the phone several times as recent as yesterday with them. And I've also gotten some email correspondence from their media response team. And they basically are telling me that they can't give out any information about Charlie's individual actions and doings there. I do know that from what they said that there's phone privileges there, 5 calls a day, up to 20 minutes. That's the max they allow. There's also a tablet issue, the like an iPad type thing that the inmates were allowed to have up until a couple months ago, but then those got taken away due to some illegal activity going on in those. So I know that the latest is that they're not allowed to send any kind of photos or any kind of video through their pads. Apparently, they are allowed to still search the internet and whatnot. So the thing is much more limited than what we saw in the Leon County Jail for Charlie, and he also has, of course, some visitation rights up in South Dakota, but South Dakota is not an easy place to get to. They do have nonstop flights from maybe places like Chicago. I know they do from Dallas, but the thing is, it's very cold in the winter. It's up in the northern part. It's the only thing separating it from Canada is North Dakota, and it gets brutally cold winters there. And I've said this before that I remember one time in March visiting near there, and it was below zero the entire week I was there in the early part of March. So it can be that cold. And you got a lot of the Yukon, Alaskan frozen tundra ice storms that come through there, and it can be really frigid and cold. So Charlie's in a facility there that's made in 1993. And the one that it's right next to, though, is the original facility built in 1881. And keep in mind, 1881 is before South Dakota was even a state. It was part of a territory at that time. So that's how old that prison is. And so I don't think South Dakota is known for spending a lot of money on their prisons. I don't think they're probably the best for creature comforts and things of that nature. And it is right next to the airport, and it is in Sioux Falls, which is the largest city in South Dakota. So they do have the ability to have visitors, as I said. So what we probably are not going to see much of, and we would not know about it, is, but who's going to visit Charlie? I mean, his mom can't. We know Wendy's not going to visit him. She's not even visiting her mom in the jail, and she could easily go see her there, as well as Charlie, but she's not seeing any one of them. And Harvey, is Harvey really going to be able to do this trip on his own and be able to especially do it with the colder weather coming in the fall and winter? So it remains to be seen, and we may not know about it, but it's a really isolated, lonely place. And at the same time, you got to watch your back and think about even any time he gets if he's locked down. that if he gets an hour of exercise, I mean, in the wintertime, you're not going to want to be outside. It's that cold many times. So in any event, it's not a fun place to be. It's going to be quite miserable, and he's going to constantly have to watch his back because there are gangs up there as well, and there could also be Aryan nations as well. In fact, there's 11 charges going on from what they had as quasi riots going on last about 2 months ago because of the tablet restriction issue that they enforced. And they have 4 inmates that are charged with assaulting guards. And they also occasionally have deaths there as well. That's normal in a prison. And also violence against the guards. I know 11 years ago there was a guard that was murdered there on the job. So it's not a piece of cake by any means. Do they have the number of violent criminals that Florida does per capita? No, definitely not. But it's still, like I say, a dangerous place that nobody wants to be in. If they know we went down on murder one charges, they're going to be doing all kinds of Google searches to find out about the Adelsons, and they can actually see where the Adelsons still have residences there in South Florida. So it's like I say, the most dangerous place an Adelson can be is in South Florida. So it remains to be seen where Wendy winds up and if Harvey actually tags along with her. But I expect those places to either be for sale or coming up for lease. I know Wendy's place is already coming up for lease here. It's already been listed. So so anyway, I think they're going to be scramming out of there and be doing it as fast as they possibly can. So we're going to have Donna's probably going to be the only one left in Florida there besides what these other Adelsons already leaving or being forced to flee in essence. And I think also Wendy's maybe trying to be closer to be able to escape from Mexico. But I do think that she's going to be charged by the end of the year. I think that's looking more and more likely. I think that I saw this hashtag Wendy Adelson 2024, and I think that she is on the radar for being the next one to be in the firing chamber to be prosecuted, targeted for the crimes that they'll accuse her of, which is the exact same. Her mom and her brother have been accused of, and her brother convicted. So that's sort of a quick roll up for tonight. And I did think it was really neat to see you guys asking questions of me and me asking questions of you when we're at the CrimeCon dinner there at that Bavarian restaurant. Is a really good place to meet. And we talked about maybe doing that here in the future as well in a different city. And because right now I'm always looking at your questions, I don't get to talk to you all. So it was really a neat thing. Didn't last that long because I was only on the ground there for one night, like I said. But I do appreciate all your guys' support for Justice for Markells. And I think the Markells would have been very, very highly pleased to see the love that people showed for getting justice. And there's a real passion for that. And I believe that is infectious, and it's going to carry over to the state attorney's office, where they're going to realize that they cannot let this go. They cannot be sitting on their hands. They cannot be dragging this thing out, and they need to make sure justice happens. And murder should not be something you can escape punishment from there in Tallahassee. So with that said, if you guys do have questions, go ahead and put, if you know how to put the emojis, the red emojis for question marks, it'll be easier for me to see. It'll jump out, and I'll be able to distinguish from your own internal chatter from questions you have for me. So with that, if you had to post any questions yet, I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom here, and that way I'll find the questions here that are current. And looks like my sound is still good. So GD is saying, Carl, do you think you'd ever be interested in interviewing Charlie Adelson? If he's so arrogant, he may just accept. I don't foresee myself ever trying to interview any Adelson, and I just don't have an interest in really doing that. Maybe that'll change down the road or something. I don't think he'd want to talk to me. The fact that I've been very outspoken, and one of the reasons I've been outspoken is because I thought there was too much wishy-washy talk about the fact that there's not enough evidence against other Adelsons and stuff like that. And the fact is, in Florida, we can actually see how much evidence they have, and they have more than enough evidence to go after, especially Wendy. So that's why I expect that to happen. JC, is it showing up here? Is asking, can you say more about the certainty of Wendy being charged at the end of the year? I'm going to bring that up in, I think, one of the next live streams, but I do think that there's some indicators for that happening. And I think the state has got such great momentum. And I think there's a lot of people more talking about it to them about it. And it just makes the most sense. And I can't believe that they would drop the ball and not follow up on this, given the fact that it's been almost 9 years or over 9 years to prosecute Charlie Adelson, who was the operational planner for this murder. He was a go-between to find hitmen to be able to do the killing of Professor Markell, who was like 7.5 hours away from where they lived in South Florida. So that's the distance between Miami area and Tallahassee. It's a long drive, but they had killers go up there multiple times trying to do the actual hit and killing of Professor Markell, and they eventually succeeded because the one that was desperate most to get this accomplished was Wendy Adelson, because she had a ton of bricks coming down on her, both from her job perspective there working for the FSU Law School along with Dan. She was only there because of Dan's being hiring, and she was hired as a spouse, not as a primary hire. And then you also had accusations that Dan made that she had committed fraud in her affidavit of the divorce filing that was a year prior. So there was contempt hearings, also contempt hearings for basically brainwashing the boys. So there's all these things were coming to a head, and then all of a sudden they all vanished. There was no other further court hearings on it because they were able to successfully murder Dan Markell. So it was so obvious from the get-go, this was a crime of hate. It wasn't a random crime of robbery or anything like that, trying to get a quick buck off of somebody, but it was actually one of sheer hatred, and it was meant to neutralize and actually extinguish all the threats that Wendy was facing. And she was able to then leave for South Florida. She had no other impediments, no court order to prevent her from leaving with the children. And then she even changed her name within a couple months after the murder happened, changed them to Adelson. So stripped them of anything having to do with their dad. It was just really despicable. And it's really upsetting for a lot of people. Imagine how the Markells have felt about it. Hold on. Sorry about that. Debbie M's asking, do I think Harvey will be arrested before Wendy since authorities seized Donna and Harvey's devices? I don't think that'll necessarily be the case. I know on one hand it makes sense because Wendy's testifying against everybody else, but I would think it makes the most sense for me that maybe they arrest them both together, but don't have any real insight into that. But so there's different charging strategies and motivations behind it, and advantages and disadvantages. But I do think that ultimately they will and should charge and arrest Harvey as well. Okay, Brenda, thanks. You're saying you're spreading the word. I appreciate that for the Markell's sake. Yeah, this case has got such little coverage for how crazy and bizarre and all the unique stuff that went on, and how they were able to get top cover politics wise to prevent themselves from being arrested for so many years. So yeah, it just really shocks the conscience, and people really get fired up about this once they start looking into it. So glad to have you on board. Oops. Emery's asking if I think Donna will go after the same defense as Charlie and still use Rashbaum. It appears by all purposes that Rashbaum is going to be her defense attorney, along with a local guy named Alex Morris. I think Rashbaum will probably do most of the work. Alex will probably only help him a little bit on voir dire, keeping track of what juror says what, and then you try to sort out and figure out who they want to kick off. And I think their defense is going to be along those same lines. I'm not going to say anything more than that because I think that I don't want to give anything of a helpful clue as to what's better and what's not better. But needless to say, I don't see any strategy is successful or having any likelihood of success here with the defense of Donna. So, and having the same attorney sort of does lock you into that same kind of thing. But who knows what's going to happen there in South Florida? It's sort of like it's really different from the rest of the United States, the way you do a lot of stuff. I don't really get a lot of it because a lot of it, just like I say, is just sort of bizarre. And I do think that I've said this before, that I think that the lack of details into going into the conflict of interest waiver that Donna has with Rashbaum also representing her convicted son Charlie. There was only yes, no questions being administered by the judge. In any court I've been in, I would have expected there to be a lot more inquisitive type of questioning of Donna, making sure she really understands what conflicts of counsel mean, that there's a constitutional right to conflict-free counsel, and have Donna describe what conflicted counsel means and how things could be an impediment and whatnot. So I think that's a appellate issue unless they redo it again. That I think that's an appellate issue that could possibly be something that could be tripping up the prosecution, but hopefully it won't. And they still got a chance to cure it, but I don't know if they will. Barb, that's an interesting question. Do you think the state would make a deal with Donna to flip on Wendy? I think they would, but I just don't see Donna doing that because she's so old anyway. And any kind of deal, if it's a couple years, it's probably a death sentence for her. So I just don't see that happening where she would be entertaining that. But it's if she wanted to and willing to sub maybe a 10-year sentence or something, I can see them cutting her a 10-year deal. Yeah, they can. I mean, look at how much they cut down the hitman. They gave him like I think an 18-year deal to testify to his involvement and point the finger at the others and cooperate in any trials. And he's done that several times now. And that's not Sigfredo, but Rivera. Freebird saying, is it true Harvey visited Charlie in Florida prison? Does that surprise you? No, I mean, that's his father. I think he's less concerned about conversations being recorded and whatnot. And I think that he only visited him twice that I recall. It might have been 3 times at most, but I do think that, especially probably he's glad he went to see him then because now he's got to go all the way up to South Dakota. So I do think that with him being in South Dakota, it's going to be less visits. And so he may be moving to Texas as well. We just don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of twists and turns on what's happening with these folks. And we just know that that's probably going to be the most predictable thing. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns. Sharon Einstein is asking, do I think Wendy will move to Texas, keep the boys further away from the Markells? Well, the Markells, I guess coming from Florida down, Canada down there to Florida has sort of been a routine, but they don't really get to see the boys much. Going to Austin, I don't know if it's going to be that much different, but I think the Markells are sort of kicked to the curb no matter where they live. So I don't think Texas is going to be that. Yeah, Julia Nelson, you're saying that. Did you know Markells only got 15 minutes with the boys last time and Wendy was there? I can't remember if it's 15 minutes or not, but I know they're always being helicoptered and they cannot see any have any alone time with them. And it's just the paranoia that they have of any Markel talking to their grandchildren or their aunt talking to them or the cousins. It's just really bizarre. And it just shows consciousness of guilt. They're worried about something the boys would say. They're worried about something somebody else would say to the boys, which they would not. I mean, they'd be totally professional about it. And so that's not going to happen. But that's what guilty people do. They're all about paranoia, and they're trying to control the script of other people, and they're trying to make sure that they keep a lid on things. But things are getting out of hand and imploding. And look at how these Adelsons are fleeing. You got Don and Harvey trying to flee the country, and the very thing that they supposedly were fighting for was their sunshines, the grandchildren that were a product of Professor Dan Markel and Wendy. And so these 2 boys that they were willing to leave behind permanently. I mean, it just makes no sense of how they pulled this off, thinking they could get away with it. The long arm of the law is really slow there in Tallahassee, but they are catching up with them, and I think the momentum's picking up, as I said. So I think it's going to be, I think things are going to be really heating up here in the end of the year. Omar Little, that's a good question. Do you think Georgia will be tougher on Wendy at Donald's trial? I think that she keeps on ratcheting it up, and I would hope that she does, and I think that she will. And that was one of her finer and finest moments in that trial, is the way she really started cross-examining Wendy, which I had talked about in other live streams, that I thought that she needed to be tougher on Wendy, and she let her get away with all these lies. She would only ask a sort of like in a puzzling manner, are you sure it wasn't such and such, when she knows it's an outright lie? And so I think that with this last trial where she really went after Wendy's lies and even called a rebuttal witness, the FBI agent, this time I hope she really rebuts him with Ruth and and Phil to rebut the issue about parental alienation, because I'm telling you, parental alienation is going to absolutely destroy anything that Donna has. If she had any ounce of likability for the jury, I'm just telling you from my experience, juries will see that. They'll know, they'll see the emails that Donna had, and they're going to put her and Wendy on the same in the same box, and they're going to think of these guys as being absolute unmitigated hated, full of hate, and they wanted Dan Markel dead, and the boys were the reason for it more than anything. Not the only reason, but a key reason besides those other things I talked about earlier that Wendy was facing a doom scenario on. So yeah, it's I think it's going to be. I think Wendy's just has ultimate fear of coming back to that courtroom. And think about it, she had to go twice last time, so maybe she thought she was going to be arrested, and maybe she will be arrested this time after she testifies, walks out of the courtroom. Maybe she will be arrested. That'd be a great thing to do. So Rosemary's asking, can the prosecution of Wendy set in court against her when she gets charged and goes to trial since she lied in oath in other trials? The best way to do that is to charge with perjury and then bring out a lot of the examples in the actual charging document, in the actual indictment, to specify what she lied about, and then bring that out as a part of the charges and the evidence you're trying to prove up for the murder. And so that would come in. You could bring in the video of her other previous trial testimony. But on the other hand, I think every time Wendy gets up there, she does worse and worse and worse as a witness. She's more and more rattled, and her demeanor's changed. She's remember the first time she was testifying, she's almost sort of giddy and laughing, totally inappropriate for a murder case. We are testifying against the folks that murdered your boy's father. So I think now she has more of a fear involved when she's testifying, as she rightfully should, because Donna is going to be there watching over her, and she says one thing wrong, and that can help sink Donna, which is going to happen. So Wendy can't help herself. She can't tell the truth. All right, let's see here. We have yeah, from what we've seen here, Daniel, Harvey has not visited Donna at all. They talk a bunch on the phone, multiple hours a week, but he has not visited her that we know of. But he did visit Charlie when he was nearby in the same location there in North Central Florida. So I don't know why he didn't see her, but that's from the records we saw and have seen by other live streamers. There was no indications that Harvey had gone to see her, and that got opened up at like the end of February. And initially, up until February, there was no visitors allowed at all due to they still had the old COVID restrictions in place. But as of February, end of February, that was changed. But it's really limited. It's not like you can see them every once a week for 2 hours even. It's like alternating weeks, and you have a real short window. So it's not very conducive to having a lot of quality time with your family. Tracy Smith, yes, I'm upset about this too. That Ruth Markel's never got their family heirloom diamond back as a wedding ring from a Holocaust survivor. So that right there, I mean, if that's not gonna like tick off the jury to no end, so what they think they're getting away with now ultimately is going to seal their fate with the jury. They just got to box a jury and go forward and get them slammed with all this strong evidence. Zach Sawyer is asking, do the Markells have any rights to the kids if Wendy gets arrested, or can she just appoint guardianship to someone else that will keep the kids away from? No, I think the state will get involved, Child Protective Services, and I think that there's also the Markel law now that grants them visitation. Whether they actually get full custody or not, I don't know, because they're also in another country, and so that remains to be seen. But definitely they'll be in better hands, and they'll have more access to not only the Markells, but then the boys can finally go up there and see the gravesite of their beloved father. Yeah, Wesley John Holmes saying they don't have a strategy. That's the beauty of it. Yeah, I mean their whole tactics and everything is really falling apart. It's really imploding, and that's why I've said the more Adelsons you charge and the faster you charge them, the quicker the implosion happens. So Harvey did help take part in funding the murder. There was checks written up from the clinic there, and we've heard some other folks on YouTube that he was very much all about keeping track of all the finances. Nothing would have left that office without him knowing about it, what it was being spent for. That's kind of information I think would be helpful also for when they prosecute him, to bring that kind of evidence at his trial. Charlie's B's asking, do I think Wendy will fly under the radar in Austin and then eventually leave the country before she's arrested? Well, there may be more people that follow it in Austin than they do in Miami. Miami's sort of like a different kind of culture. So I think the culture in Austin maybe be more cognizant of her background and what she's facing. And I don't think she's going to be having that much time there to be able to leave before she's arrested. And so if she's going to flee the country, I think she's going to do it pretty quick after she gets there. It could just be a temporary staging area, set the boys up in boarding school, and then she's going to leave without them or something, I imagine. I think if she leaves, she probably won't bring the boys, is my guess. Northern Ireland, all right. When will witness lists become public? Those should be coming up here, I believe, sometime this month or next. We're going to see the witness list. And I think it's going to be probably a repeat of most all the stuff we saw before, just a little bit more from what they had from the search warrants. Cats are doing fine. Thanks for asking. Yeah, Virginia, we don't know about that phone. That's a good question. I've not seen that question before, and that's a good one. We have not seen anything from any kind of logs about messages that he had with Wendy, but that's something I hope they would have done, but I've not seen any evidence that they actually did do that. So, I see we got a couple trolls here. So that's something that I see they're investing in. The Adelsons, they invest in trolls. They've been doing this for many years, spending money to try to change the narrative. But there's a lot of live streaming now from a lot of different folks that are covering the evidence and going into detail. So it's harder and harder for them to be able to keep doing whack-a-mole on folks that are bringing up the evidence. Okay. Middle of the night in Sweden. Thanks for joining us. Jane, yeah, Harvey could get a plea deal if he flipped on Wendy. The problem is he's not going to have any inkling and motivation to flip on anybody unless they charge him. That's one of the things I've been repeatedly foot stomping, which is good things don't happen unless you start charging defendants. So if you have co-conspirators to a murder, you need to start charging them, and you're not going to charge them all at the same time. Charge them in short, rapid succession. And they just haven't done that. They've waited till there's a conviction at the end, and this is really, really a painstaking. I just don't like that at all. It's just really, really unusual. It's almost like you're doing it from a point of insecurity and weakness, but they don't have anything to be insecure about. They got the capabilities to get convictions, so they just need to execute. Let's see. I'm so tired. Says they have enough evidence to arrest now. Why wait? What other new evidence could there be? Well, they have search warrants that they did on different devices for Donna and Harvey. They also did more computers, email type searches. So some of the, I think the tablets they couldn't get access to, but there's other stuff out there that they could use as well. But I think what they're doing is just the systematic approach is after one's convicted, then they're going to decide to focus on the next person. They're not doing that. At least I haven't been doing that before. And I think the fact that Donna was fleeing, I think they, after Charlie got convicted, I think that's going to make them realize that they need to be ready to charge Wendy a lot sooner. So that's why I think Wendy's going to be charged this year still. KO Las Vegas asking, do I think Harvey will attend Donna's trial as spectator, which prosecutors call Harvey to testify? If so, what will they ask him? Yeah, I mean, they could call him the same way they called Wendy to the stand. And that's something I would probably do, given the fact they have that ability to prosecute folks and still call them as a witness before their own trial to testify against other co-conspirators. So They almost had a deposition set up there in South Florida in the trial for Donna that was scheduled to go on. Oh, excuse me, that was for Charlie. Right near the end of his a couple months before, if you recall, there was a hearing on that, and the judge was getting ready to force cooperation from Harvey and Donna if they weren't going to cooperate by going to a Miramar FBI office for a investigatory deposition. So I do think that this is a key question because I said it's a win-win scenario for the state because if he's not there, the jury's going to pick up on that big time. And if he is there watching, the jury's going to pick on it big time of how guilty he looks. Keep in mind that Harvey isn't very good at putting on an act like Donna and Wendy are. So I think that that's going to be very telling. And he's damned either way of whatever he does. And so it remains to be seen. If he's on the witness list, though, then he's not going to be able to watch any of the proceedings until after he's recused as a witness. And if he's permanently excused, then he could go and watch as a spectator. But so you got a couple of different rules there in play. But I think even if he's not called as witness, my guess is he's probably not even going to show up. I think he has so much fear of being in that Tallahassee area, and he's worried about him being arrested. So I would be surprised if he shows up there. And if he does, that'd be more than welcome to see his reaction to all the damning testimony. And what the juries do is that they really size him up. They're going to see what he looks like and really see what his reaction is to different types of evidence, especially when they show like some of the autopsy photos and the ER photos and stuff like that of Dan Markell and how those were so upsetting to look at. And they can look at the reaction of the defendant and also the defendant's family. So I think that's going to be very telling for the jury. And that's why it'd be great if he was there. But we don't know for sure. But either way, like I say, it's a good thing. CC's asking if Harvey's going to move with Wendy. Yeah, we don't know. I think that would be the case, but I don't know for sure. I can't believe that she would leave him behind there, but it remains to be seen. And maybe she won't go there after all this is becoming public. Maybe she'll decide not to go there. We just don't know. That's a good one here. Can Wendy use John Laurel as a defense attorney for trial? That's the one who's been representing her for a number of years now, basically since 2016. And when she got called when she was fleeing to go down to South Miami, leaving her house there on Aqua Ridge in Tallahassee, when Detective Isom called her up, she hung up on him. Basically, he said it was bad connection, hung up, and then John Laurel supposedly called Detective Isom like 10 minutes later. So how do you secure counsel that fast? And I do expect him to be continued on. And just think how much money he's going to charge him. It's going to be probably well over $1 million for him to represent her. And I don't see her using Rashbaum at all. I don't think she'd use somebody that's lost twice. Think about it. He would have lost with his her brother's trial, lost big time. There's a quick verdict on that. There's going to be a quick verdict on Donna. So I mean, you're going to lose. You're going to hire a guy who's lost 2 murder cases against your mom and your brother. So I just don't see that happening. Or it could be another one if she can't afford Laurel. Maybe somebody else will do it. So that remains to be seen. But so far, it's still been Laurel. Yeah. So as I've said, Linda, she can have visitors there, but it's very limited. And so far, she has had not a single visit from her daughter Wendy. Yeah, here we have Tally Gal saying, do you think Donna would consider flipping on Wendy if the state would grant Donna and Harvey full immunity? Well, that's a good question. I think she's willing to try to go for broke. I think she's going to be listening to Rashbaum and think she's going to be able to walk. So I don't think she would consider that for much at all. I think she'd summarily dismiss that. I think she really thinks she's going to walk because that's what Rashbaum's telling her. Jody, you're asking if an unindicted co-conspirator like Wendy, if Florida can request a hold on Wendy's passport. That is something that, I think she's not going to be on any kind of terrorist watch list, but there might be some kind of informal channels. I'm not sure for certainty what exactly they could do, but there's different ways of finding things out. Obviously, they didn't work too well. It wasn't through law enforcement channels; it's through other folks informing the state attorney's office that Don and Harvey were fleeing the country. So I don't know how good those would work, but I wouldn't wait for that to happen. Because think about it, Donna and Harvey had fled the country before they could arrest them. They probably would have stopped and not even gone after any other Adelson. They would have felt like they don't have the momentum and they didn't have the courage to do it, whatever. But we came that close, 40 minutes from Donna and Harvey on the plane and never to be seen again, probably, at least here in the United States, facing trial. This is something, Livio, I've been saying. I think Ruth and Phil should be called as witness to Donna's trial. Absolutely. I really hope they do this time. They need to talk about the alienation of the grandkids. That is a huge motivation for the murder. Not the only main motivation, but and that nobody's better to talk about it than the actual ones that have suffered the most, which is Phil and Ruth. Sarah Eichhorn is saying, do you think there's less or more evidence against Donna than Charlie, the call about the bomb to fleeing? I mean, I think there's different types. I mean, you don't have the Dolce Vita tape and the Matsuri tape directly involving Donna, but you got her trying to flee. You got her on the other wiretap stuff. So I think it doesn't. I'm not really concerned about that. I think there's overwhelming enough to convict both Donna, like it was done for Charlie. So I'm not really going to score it. I'm not going to score it like Rashbaum and give it a number. But anyway, I think she's going to wind up with the same kind of outcome. There's no doubt in my mind, and I think the prosecution will do a great job, like they did in Charlie's. Linda, this is something that's come up before, and I've talked about it, but so I'll just make a really brief comment here. Charlie, you're asking, will Charlie be called to testify at Donna's trial? And so I think that the state probably will not call him, but I think that, there's always a chance that Donna wants him to testify. So if he does testify, I wouldn't worry about that for a second. If I was the state, that's going to help prove your case, and I think it'll be a great thing to embolden the prosecution to bring up all the questions and show what the real operational plan of the murder looks like, and Charlie's arrogance and all that kind of stuff. Because of the worse Charlie looks, the more that's going to have a bleed over effect and make Donna look bad. So, yeah, I mean, possibly the state would bring him, but I just don't think they necessarily will. But that's always a possibility. They could force him to testify like Donna, but I just don't foresee that. He does have an appeal pending and whatnot, so they may just try to leave him alone and not bother with that. All right, here, scrolling down, we got, I'm still a little bit behind. Yeah, the cats haven't come in here yet. They're probably still outside. They're getting ready to come in here in a little bit, though. Yeah, society page. Yeah, Leo's not. I think he's still outside, but they'll be coming in here shortly, perhaps. Let's see. All right, so yeah, Anna Maria is saying parental alienation is so toxic and so not doing what's best interest of children. Yeah, that really makes them. You talk about making a defendant unlikable by a jury. I mean, this is like right up there. This is one of the most insidious, anger spiking type of things you can have a jury look at. And I mean, they're gonna hear that, and they're gonna see how Donna acts during the trial. And even if they try to like get her coached up and try to act a lot different and try to act more grandmotherly, once they hear about the alienation and they hear about the wiretap, the way she was so conniving and calculating and trying to keep a lid on this thing and threatening the bump agent and all that kind of stuff, they're gonna get the real Donna in perspective. So that's what's gonna sink her. Law and Lit is asking, do you think Wendy's writing podcast is also consciousness of guilt? Yes, I do. I think there's some comments she had in there. I think what was that one, latex husband, and some comments she was making about how to respond when people ask about her murdered spouse. I mean, it's just really bizarre, cringy type of stuff. So I think that could also be used against her. But the book, they could definitely bring out more stuff in her book. They only touched a few of the things. There's definitely more things that are definitely get you an eerie creep feeling that this thing was premeditated, years in the making. Julie Nelson, you're asking, did Wendy know about the legal bomb Dan was about to drop on her per Tamara Demko? We don't know for certain when the timing of that happened, but I think that she had to have known, and I think that that's something that I would bring out if I was a prosecutor, find out the details of how they knew it was supposed to be filed like a day or two before he got murdered. So I think that's another key indicator. And even if she didn't know about it, the fact is there was a pending motion for contempt, and she could have gone to jail for that. And I think there's a loss of job and all that. So I think all that kind of stuff. Well, she already knew about that stuff pending. So that was enough of a legal bomb to make her be absolutely desperate and frantic, for sure. So Dewey's asking, will the Markel grandparents' rights law go into effect soon? That will go into effect after Wendy's convicted, I believe. That's how that works. Once the parent of the child, the children that are affected by the murder of the spouse, if one spouse is involved in it and they're convicted of it, then that's what triggers that law to go into effect, where they get grandparent rights. So the law's already there. This is a triggering mechanism hasn't happened yet. Sir Tedrick Walker. Yeah, I did see the condo for rent. I think it was Judy, a Legal Focus, that posted that. So that was that it's for lease. It's not for sale. It's for lease. I think it's like 5,000 a month or something like that. But it's only a few blocks from South Beach. Asking, Carl, what's the biggest cross argument left out of Charlie's trial that you wish would have been included? Okay, cross examination is not really an argument. I think you mean to say what's the biggest daggers that Georgia could inflicted on him. And so, there's just a lot of stuff. The one that stands out to me the most is this issue about the uh, the use of the TV for the code word that was brought up, and Charlie said that his mom picked such a bad word choice. Well, what was the word? What was it? The meaning of that word? Why didn't he ask her about it? And you just had a whole half hour, an hour follow up questions on that. So that's one of the things. For example, there's a lot of other follow up questions that were not asked to a lot of the stuff he said, but it didn't matter. There was enough evidence that was brought out, and so I think that they'll have even more good probing questions if he testifies in Donna's trial. Let's see. Somebody that should be a crime is saying your thoughts on Wendy equals John Lauro equals Donald Trump equals Governor Christie equals pardon clemency for Charlie to say no. I don't see that happening. No, that's not going to happen. Not at all. So I think you think there's some kind of connection there because John Lauro is also representing Trump, and I just don't see any connection there. Yeah, Austin is definitely bad traffic. Yeah, so Barb, she does have a cousin there that also, I think they have some kids similar to the boy's age. So that's maybe what she's doing. And maybe she's also, I heard maybe she wants to put them in boarding school or something like that. So definitely the boys could be looking at, not spending much time at home there and sort of being prepped for that eventual arrest. Oh, thanks, Martha. You're trying to act coy and cute on the stand in the court setting is offensive, in my opinion. Oh, yeah. Juries everything like that that you guys pick up on juries, they really do that as well, and they act accordingly. That's my experience. I've seen it over and over and over again. So definitely. I think that Charlie's appeal, BZ's asked about how much longer would Charlie's appeal take. I think Charlie's appeal should be filed probably in the next 2 months, is my guess. And I think that I think it's due, but in the next month. But I think there might be a short extension that his attorney will ask for. His attorney doesn't usually ask for a long extension, so I think that'll probably happen. Like I say, in the next couple months at most, and then we'll get to see what he's saying. I think one of the things we've heard that he'll say was ineffective assistance of counsel, which is Rashbaum, which is really bizarre because now he's representing Donna. And so, yeah, it's just really, this whole thing is really bizarre. As I've said, I don't know any attorney that would go from Charlie to Donna. That is just so extremely bizarre. It's unreal. Yeah. Hey, Charlie, I think you're in Germany. I don't know about the commissary situation for Charlie at all, but they're not going to give you those kind of details. They'll just give you generic information at that prison. That's all you can get. Yeah, Ocean Girl is asking, is Wendy currently renting the Florida condo, or did she purchase it and is trying to lease? She owns it and she's trying to lease it out, and so don't know if somebody's gonna find somebody for that. I think that would be sort of weird, having that leased out and knowing what who the landlord is, and then I don't know. It would be a really creepy feeling, I would think, for someone. Maybe they don't know about it and they'll find out about it later and want to move out, but it's remains to be seen. Katie Lee is asking, can I do a part 2 YouTube a video of indicators Wendy is guilty? Yeah, I could do that. I really, what I could also do is if I really show a video of like your interview and then just go through and dissect and also her testimony and just do some of my analytical commentary on that and give you really an idea of how I would look at it as a prosecutor and why I'm so convinced that she was involved from the get-go and she had the consciousness of guilt. She did not act in any way, shape, or form like an innocent person. And I think you would agree with that. Every time you look at her more and more, either any kind of testimony, form of testimony, you'll catch more and more lies. You'll pick up on her really incredulous demeanor. And the fact is the juries are going to pick up on that. And they will not like any Adelson that gets up on the witness stand, I guarantee you. So it really makes it easier from the prosecution. If you have unlikable defendant and defendant's family members as well, and you're talking about a murder as well, that's just so far over the top. Patricia, what's likely Charlie will actually serve life in prison? I have a hunch he'll be granted parole in say 20 years, which would be a miscarriage. Well, he can't because he's serving life without parole. That's the whole thing. He fought this and wanted to go to trial, and he was convicted. He wasn't offered. He wasn't he wasn't charged with the death penalty, but he's charged with murder one in Florida. And if you go down murder one in Florida, there is no parole. So the jury did not find him guilty of second-degree murder, which is more of a heat of passion type murder. No, it was cold, calculated, premeditated murder. He was found guilty of. So he's not going to get any kind of parole unless there's some kind of deal, and the prosecution would agree to mitigate it a little bit because of the fact he testified. But I don't think they'll even do that. Even if he tries to cooperate and tries to entice the prosecution to lessen his sentence so he can maybe see his son when he's 80 years old or something. I just don't foresee that happening. But yeah, so Barb, you're saying that it looks like Charlie's nose is broken. I don't know about that. It might have been, but we just don't know. We're going to know even less in Florida, right? So that's what's disappointing about him being in Florida. Yeah, hey Mana, we don't really have much information on Charlie about him being in there. We just know, I just said in the beginning, if you want to do a rewatch, I talked about some of the limitations and on phones and whatnot. But motions for Donna, we've not seen any of those yet. Those will be coming up here in the next month or so. Yeah, Wesley John Holmes, I agree. His appeal will be just as last as his defense. Yeah, it'll be really pathetic. But everyone has a right to it. They put their he's got it, probably one of the best ones in Florida to do it for him. But I think even he's going to say, like, there's nothing here to find that has any kind of merit to reverse it and retry him. Jen Rank, you're asking if Charlie's been fried a new name for protection. I know some folks have said that on some other channel, but and folks are asking me about that. I've never heard of such a thing. That might be a Florida thing. I've never heard of that, but I haven't also had any kind of a notorious, infamous client like Charlie either. So don't know if they would do that, but rest assured, I think the inmates up in Florida know who he is. So it doesn't matter if they try to call him something else. Yeah, Kaya saying Lacoste said Wendy drank her dinner most nights, but Wendy said she didn't drink it all. Yeah, there's something weird about that. I'm not going to cover that, but there's something to pull the thread on that thing, because I think there's more there that the prosecution will probably bring out, and that's all I'm going to say for now. Driftwood is asking, are defense attorneys offended when the appeal is ineffective assistance of counsel? I don't know if they'll be offended by it. I think it's not pleasing to find out, but I mean, if you really care about your client, if there's something you did wrong as an attorney, and they have a chance to get their sentence set aside or reversed without a chance of retrial, let's say, if they do something like that, and that was your client, you care about them in that sense, you're happy for them. But thankfully, I've never been in that situation where I've had anybody have to appeal something I've done. And I'm not an appellate attorney. I just do trial work, and I try to make sure there's no chance of an appeal. So I go for the kill in the beginning, not trying to fix it at the end on appeal and fix other people's mistakes or my own mistakes. I try to make sure I don't make any mistakes from the at this trial level. But I would say the more thing that's going to get the attorney upset is if they file some kind of grievance against them. So that would be something that definitely would inflame the attorney, and that's why I think was what Wendy was facing is accusations by Dan in that regard. He had not filed with the state bar, but I think him saying that she was unethical and had a questionable record in the litigation proceedings to make her likely unfit to continue as a professor. I think that was absolute something that she would have been trying to up the timing of the murder. Rosemary, you're asking could the Dan's boys be asked to testify at Donna's trial or at Wendy's trial when she gets arrested? That's always a possibility. I think state attorney's office doesn't seem like the type to want to interview minor victims, so I think that's probably something they won't do. But it always is a possibility, and it's something I would do, but I just don't see them doing that. And maybe they just don't want to upset the boys because they don't think there's going to be enough benefit from that. But you never know. But they've probably been conditioned and told what to say if somebody talks to them. So they're probably so programmed it's not going to be beneficial. But it'd be definitely curious and something that is worth exploring. All right, let's see here. We got yeah, Donna says dress up the boys with the Nazi uniform. So yeah, that's definitely something that is going to inflame the jury. Yeah, I think Wendy, because I think she's been following social media, so I think that she's not going to wear the same dress, and she'll wear something similar, something dark. It's not going to be something bright. It's going to be something very subdued, non-attention grabbing. So that's something I think her attorneys would be telling her. Yeah, Kathy Barella is saying the cost of these lawyers must be eating into Harvey's bottom line. Even to think about, even just Wendy having John Laurel as her attorney. Can you imagine all the money she's been spending? I think he charges like $1,000 an hour or something like that. So every time there's a phone call, even if it's 5 minutes, it's probably going to be $350. So she's probably spent like 150,000. I think is a conservative estimate. I'm just guessing legal support, and yeah, she hasn't even been charged yet. So you can imagine what the bill would be if she is charged. Yeah, Pat Hansen's asking, why are they letting Wendy move out of the state? Well, because she's not been indicted yet. She's already been notified of her subpoena, I take it, and as long as she comes back for that, I don't think that there's no mechanism to stop her from moving. So that's why she's able to move out of state if she wants to. There's no restrictions on her liberties at all. Caroline C's asking, do I think Wendy will flee to Mexico so she doesn't have to testify against her mom? I mean, that could be tempting. And I think that her testifying against her mom is probably going to be something she doesn't want to risk going to jail for. So I think during her mom's trial or something is when I think it's most likely time she would flee the country if she thought about that. But or else she just sort of has cognitive dissonance and things. I'm not going to be arrested. Yeah, I'm scared, and I'm just going to take my chances. So, but it's going to be something. I think she's going to be like Charlie, wondering why didn't she flee when she had the chance. So thanks, Teresa KS, for joining us, first time viewer. Yeah, so thanks to Roxanne notifying of this case. So yeah, do a lot of research on this case. You will be amazed. I think it's way more to be intrigued by and disgusted by and upset by than anything I think about the Daybells murder. So yeah, so Rosemary, that's what I'm saying is Charlie. There's no way he's ever going to go back to Florida. It's too dangerous there. So Florida's so dangerous. Charlie will never have a chance to ever visit Florida again. He's going to be locked up for life, and he's never going to go back to Florida. It's too dangerous. There's too many violent felons there. They know about him too much, and the percentage of violent criminals there is higher than most states in the Midwest. So he's probably always going to be in a state like the Midwest, and he could be bounced around to other states. They may decide that Charlie's too much, and they may try to call up Florida and say, "Look, we don't want this guy. He's too much of a pain. Get him out of here." Yeah, Rabbit, that's the point I've made earlier that you're bringing up here. The defendant testifying really is beneficial for defense attorneys because it really leaves no doubt but that the jury did not believe the defendant, and that takes away a lot of things that could be considered reversible error. And so I think that it's more likely to be considered harmless error because the defendant got to testify and explain their version of events. And so I think that Donna's going to testify just like Charlie, and I think that's going to definitely help sink any chance for an appeal. All right, let's see here. So we got Linda Mon's asking, has Wendy been disbarred? No, there's not been any disciplinary action against her. If she was convicted of the murder, then there would be something, but I don't foresee anything happening before that. Let's see. That's the one thing. DJ Ross saying, will Charlie be present at the appeal? That's one thing here in American jurisprudence. They do not bring the defendant in for the appeals. I know one time when I had Russian generals visiting the Pentagon and we're giving a tour of different U.S. courts, they were shocked when they went to some of the Army Criminal Courts of Appeals and one in D.C. There, the highest military court of appeals. They were shocked that the defendants do not sit there and listen to the arguments. And but they said that's something that they give automatically there in Russia. But in any event, it is a different perspective. I think it would be sort of interesting if the defendant could see that happening. It'd be more, I guess, more of a chance to see whether a good job was done by your counsel or not, and whatnot. But that's not done here, I guess, for logistics reasons, and because the defendant can't testify. So I guess they're thinking it doesn't really matter if the defendant's there or not. But yeah, no state or federal court ever has the defendant there on appeal. All right, let's see here. We got yeah, Jody Langley. Could you share any stories of your meeting with Tamara Demko? She came across a genuine person. I understand they're working on a Justice for Dan nonprofit. Yeah, I don't want to really get into that. If you were there, I think Tamara, I thought there'd be a lot of questions asked of Tamara by some of the folks there, that when I was in her presence, that people have been asking her a lot of detailed evidence type questions, but I think they respected her for that, that they maybe think she'll be a witness. I just don't think that, I don't think that that's going to be something that, people are going to be asking her like they thought they would. And I didn't ask her those type of questions, but yeah, it was nice to see her. And I don't know if she'll be called as a witness. I sure hope she would be at Donna's trial, and also especially Wendy's trial, to really set up the family dynamics. So she was like the main go-between both the families of the Adelsons and Markells. And her testimony's on YouTube if you want to see that. It's on several different channels. Originally, it was on Deep Dive True Crime last summer, I recall. Burtis is Gerford is saying, can Rashbaum or other local attorney do a three-way call Donna and Charlie to prepare Donna for a trial? They should not be doing that. If they do that, they'd probably be the jail folks would be listening and they'd shut them down. So I don't see that happening at all. I think it'd be very tempting. I'm sure they've asked for that to happen, for their lawyers to do that for them, but I do not see that at all being the case. Marietta from South Africa, welcome, and glad to have you. And you're asking, will Charlie flip on his sister Wendy because of prison conditions? I think eventually that will happen. I think the prison conditions, Charlie will get so sick of. I think he'll be so tired of having a target on his back, that I think if Donna dies, I think he'll be ready to flip on Wendy. But I think also the prison conditions could be so bad that he may just want to end his life and not even try to get back at Wendy. So those are the two different scenarios I see happening. Yeah, you're asking about Wendy's life. I don't know what was going on in Wendy's life, other than this thing that's being talked about a lot in chats about her potential move to Austin. So I'm not going to talk about anything more of her personal life, but I will definitely be talking more about what's going on in her personal life when she's arrested and held in Leon County Jail, and what the jail conditions are like and whatnot. Yeah, Junam Chida. Let's see here. It's not showing it for some reason. There we go. Okay, you're asking, I love watching Junam try to testify. I wonder if her phone will go off again. Donna told her Dan was haunting them from the green. Yeah, that testimony did not come out. If you remember, that was restricted by the judge, and it was not really. I think it's probably more prejudicial than probative. There's a lot of different takes on that, but yeah, that is an interesting thing that Donna had said, and I'm sure she does feel that way, probably on a daily basis. Society page, hey, how are you doing? You're saying, wait, Wendy hasn't seen any coverage of the case. Yeah, that's true. She doesn't know anything about the case. Yeah, right. Her lawyer told her not to. Yeah, so she can't find out what's going on to advise her boys on how close they are to getting the killers of their dad convicted. So yeah, no one believes that, and no one would follow her attorney's advice on that. So I can tell you that. All right, so you're asking, Bob from accounting is saying, will her attorney tell her not to giggle in court? She didn't do as much giggling this last time, and so she really had the heat put on her by Wendy, and she did such a terrible job testifying. And yeah, there's less giggles. She's definitely more nervous, and she knows that Georgia got her. She proved she was a liar. So I think that was a really great thing to see. All right, so we have here the You mean the unconstitutional law? Yeah, I think you're referring to when Wendy called the Markella Act unconstitutional. Yeah, that was she just couldn't help herself, could she? That's a good sort of thing that sort of ties into she just couldn't help herself driving to the crime scene, right, to make sure that Dan was murdered. Same kind of thing. Dreamscape, you're saying that you think Jeff Lacasse is probably bursting the seams with the info he still has about Wendy, but it hasn't been able to talk about. Yeah, I think that there's probably a lot more information that they could bring about on Jeff on details of the relationship that have not been brought forth. They try to streamline a lot of it, and that's typical for a lot of prosecutions. But yeah, I'm sure there's probably a whole day of details he could give that would be really riveting. But they just want to move the trial along faster. But yeah, he knows Wendy, I would say better than anybody, and is able to explain her mindset and her actions. And so yeah, I mean, he pretty much told him from the get go that that Wendy was really strange, and they need to look at Charlie. He wasn't thinking Wendy was involved at that point, but he really came to think about how much she was involved in setting him up like a bowling pin to take the fall. Yeah, Mama B saying, "Did Donna pick Rashbaum so he can make sure her jury knows Charlie being convicted, so she'll be innocent for Dan's death?" I think you mean to say like so she can point the finger at Charlie, or at least they'll have sympathy for her and think that Charlie did it, but not her. I just don't see that at all. I think she picked Rashbaum also just because that's somebody that she's known for many, many years. I think that as long as she's writing the big checks, or Harvey is to Rashbaum over these years, that they're willing to believe anything he says, and they're having a good relationship, and there was no fracturing of the relationship despite the fact that Charlie was convicted, because normally that's the first thing that would fracture is that they would blame the attorney, but instead that's not what the Adelsons did, and especially not what Charlie did. Charlie wanted to blame anybody else but himself for why he was there in as a convicted murderer. So Megan H. You're asking, is there any restriction for Harvey testifying against Donna due to them being married? Where there's a marital spouse privilege against testimony, and that has to do with words spoken in the marriage that were intended to be confidential. So actions, not words, actions that are done between spouses, that's not covered by the privilege. So like handing money or that kind of thing, and that would not be protected under spousal privilege. There's a lot of stuff you can get in, and that are not covered by the conversation between husband and wife. So, but yeah, that would apply. It applies in all states. But like I say, it's only for conversations between the two of them. And, but if there's a third party there, and the privilege is waived anytime you have privileged communication, but you have a third party there knowingly, then that's waived. Or if there's like a search warrant or a wiretap or something like that, then that could be waived as well, depending on which state and what is said. All right, so we have here Ocean Girls asking how old are the boys now. I think the boys are like 14 and 15. So I mean, they're almost out of high school. In a couple of years, they're going to be high school. That's why I need to get this thing moving. I mean, wouldn't that be something that they waited until they got to college before more Adelsons are arrested? We can't wait that long. Salt Pony's asking how difficult is it to be in the courtroom for the trials worth a trip from Canada? Well, actually, it's not that difficult. I don't think there's going to be that many more people for Donna's trial than there were for Charlie. There was definitely more sitting room available. It was not fully packed. There was probably room for another 20 people's my guess, despite all the media folks and stuff in there. And some of the media folks would actually be moved out into the media room, I think, if it wasn't for the fact there's open seating there for folks to be there. So yeah, I think you can, you should make the trip down if you can swing it. Driftwood is asking, do I think Wendy would flee with her kids though? Well, there's a chance. I just think that there's also a chance she would leave her kids behind, leave them with a cousin, leave them in boarding school or something. I just don't really know exactly what would happen, but I think she has to be in some kind of pressure cooker, and every day that goes by, it's going to be another day where she's wondering, is that going to be the day that she's arrested? And she's probably doing her best to try to not think about it, but that's going to be very, very hard to do, I think. Yeah, Mel is saying that it seems like they have cognitive dissonance. Yeah, but if you have already seen your brother be arrested and convicted of murder, and now you see your mom being teed up for the same thing, it's gotta be eating at you a lot more at a minimum. Huh. Yeah, times multiple rabbits from Society page. All right, let's see. Mama B's asks, how many times can Charlie be moved to different prisons? Well, as many times it takes. And so I think the South Dakota can reject him if they want to. If Charlie's too much of a headache to deal with, and they're too tired of dealing with all the issues that he presents from a security standpoint, and he's just too much. Takes too many officers to be dealing with Charlie. They may say we don't want him anymore, or maybe they feel he's not safe there anymore, and they'll tell Florida come get him, move him somewhere else. Yeah, I don't know about the staging of her furniture at the time of the murder. Yeah, that's a good question. The two's asking, well, if he's not testifying, will Charlie have the means to watch Don's trial? I think so because they have internet access. My that's understanding from the tablets, they have internet access. So he could pipe into our channel. John's going to have a live feed to hook up from our channel or any other channel that's covering it, to include like Court TV or Law and Crime, etc. So anyway, it's going to be, imagine that he's going to be looking at that. Unless he's going to be brought down to Tallahassee waiting to testify, then he probably wouldn't have a chance to look at it there. So I've already talked about, well, Harvey attend Donna's trial. That's a great question. I think it's going to be great to see either way. It's a win-win scenario for the state because he's going to look bad if he's there, and he's going to look bad if he's not there. So can't go wrong either way for the state. I think he's so afraid to show up in Tallahassee. He may not even be there. Yeah, let's see here. The Barb 417 saying they all had motive. Yeah, they definitely all had motive. They're all trying to protect Wendy, but Wendy was the one that fed him the information and get him to do it. She's the one that helped set up Jeff Lacasse to be the fall guy. So there's a lot of indicators, many, many indicators. And we've done a channel on that for you that are those of you that are new. There's a not a live stream, but a video that John and I put out. Gosh, it was a while back now. One of the first ones we did on this channel talked about the over 100 indicators for Wendy's involvement, and there's many, many more than that. So if you count all the lies and stuff that we're told, that's something that you hear a lot, and you still hear it to this day. I think I heard some of that at CrimeCon. People are wondering, how did they think that they could get away with this? There's too many issues that could blow up in their face. You're asking to be trusting folks that are willing to kill somebody. How do you know they won't come back and kill you? I mean, that's one of the things that I think is really astounding. The fact that why didn't they think that whoever kills Dan couldn't come back and kill them? And so that's what bizarre. Maybe Charlie, he thought he had Katie under control, and because he was giving money to Katie so well that they wouldn't kill him. But I mean, you're dealing with the most vile, evil people in society that are willing to kill, and you expect them not to do something against you. I think it's just really, 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 really astounding and baffling. Yeah, Charlie would definitely be cold this winter. Yeah, Rabbit's asking, do I know any inside on Donna's Tallahassee lawyer's role on influence or trial president? I just think he's not going to be that involved, except for Wardar. He may do a few witnesses during the trial to help Rashbaum out, but I think the main thing is Donna feels most secure with Rashbaum taking the lead and most all critical witnesses. All right, let's see. We got Patricia's asking, do I think Harvey will be not charged with his advancing dementia? I don't know that he has any dementia. I don't think he does, and I don't think that should be a factor unless he's unfit for trial. Then that could be a factor, but be another reason to hurry up and advance this prosecution against him and Wendy. Yeah, Ms. Brown is saying for Wendy's trial, would love Katie to be asked when Sigfredo called to say that the job is done. Did she said, I know who told her. So the implication being Wendy reported that back to Charlie and Charlie told Katie and then Katie told Sigfredo. So that sounds like how it probably happened, but maybe she doesn't remember it. I don't know. You think the prosecution would have asked that. And if they had a good answer for it, they would have brought out a trial. Cece's asking, do you think her friends that were on the phone call when Donna didn't hang up, that they will help and they helped with the paperwork and they knew Donna Harvey were fleeing? Will they be called to testify? I don't think so. I think they're going to be more limited. I think it's going to be much more the same that we had for Charlie's trial, but that kind of evidence could be probative and helpful. I just don't think they're going to go there. All right, let's see here. We have Debbie is saying, Charlie said to Donna in jail calls post conviction that he wondered why Wendy just couldn't book a spa appointment instead of a whole TV repair debacle. That screams prior knowledge. Yeah, I mean, that's there's a video that was done. It shows all the indicators that Wendy knew what that the TV code stood for murder. And so if you go back to that on this channel, you'll see how there's no way that she wasn't having knowledge about the TV code. She's totally part of that plan. You know, such a complex, convoluted thing, and it just took so much effort, and it basically just helps prove their guilt. And so that's what's great about it is that their plans to basically have some kind of ruse and trick people actually is a thing that helps secure and prove their consciousness of guilt and their involvement in the murder. Okay, CW here. I don't know if you're a troll or you're just new on the case, but you definitely know what you don't know what you're talking about. So that's something I'll give you a pass on this time. But if you don't know for sure and if you've done your homework, then why would you be trying to help somebody that is actually named as an unindicted co-conspirator? So I don't think you're helping any cause for justice. Trying to give a free pass to somebody who's already been named an unindicted co-conspirator, and the evidence has shown she's lying multiple times over and over again. Even Georgia said that she framed Jeff Lacasse. I mean, it's just this is just evidence, piece of evidence after evidence after evidence, just stacked and stacked and stacked tall to show her involvement. And so for you to make a comment like that, I mean, I'll just hide you right now, and I'll delete your comment. So I don't know if you're in India being paid by Adelsons or not, but I'll strike you. All right, so here we have the yeah, Rashwan's laughing all the way to the bank. Our Keith Morris is asking, what's the best way we can show our support and encouragement to the Latin Kings in their continued effort? I don't think we're going to have any contact with Latin Kings. I don't think they're really watching it. Something happened there, a little glitch. Sorry about that. Sorry, let me see. I'm at 9:16 on the question, so I got to jump up ahead here closer to the, we're at 9:27. Gen rank, this is a good thing. I think it's also a reason why a lot of people are so angry about more Adelson's not being arrested, and those that have, it's taken so long, is that if they were of lower socioeconomic status, they were from, they were from a poor part of Tallahassee, absolutely, they've been rolled up a lot sooner. Go to my video talking about political connections they had, and you'll see how that I think helped embolden them to commit the murder, because they were connected to some of the most powerful politicians and lawyers in South Miami there that had direct ties to Tallahassee. So the best friend of Harvey, for example, was probably the most powerful politician in perhaps all of Florida. So if you think that doesn't buy him some influence and keep him out of jail, I mean, that's the way politics works. And so I think that's definitely part of it. And but thankfully, Jack Campbell's shaking that loose and going after more Adelsons, because you can't let politics stand in the way of justice and doing the right thing. So good question. Good question for that. That's one that comes up a lot. So you might be new on the case here, but yeah, go circle back and look at one of my videos. I think I've done it in the last 2.5 months or so. Yeah, Katie, I would say this is definitely something that it's just so baffling, because it's like they can't even help themselves but do the worst type thing that makes them look so much more guilty, and it's going to hurt them from a jury. But and I'll say that because they're not going to change. They're not going to change visitation. They're that fear struck and full of paranoia, and they hate anything Markel that bad that they will try to deny the boys that meaningful connection with the entire family tree of the Markels. So you're asking here if Wendy was smart, she'd have the Markels involved in grandchildren's life. It would help her case when she's a trial. Yeah, it would, but you know what? I don't understand why that would happen that way, and I would. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. But that's really one of the most disgusting things is the way these boys have been treated post murder, leading up to the murder, not having any care and regard for the boys, and then basically the fact they've never been to Canada, they've never seen their father's grave. It just burns you up, doesn't it? Yeah, Jim, you're asking, what do you think of Donna's comment that people saw Charlie's testimony, he was innocent, no one was ever acquitted, basically solely on their own testimony? Yeah, I think the fact that it's their friends and they're going to say whatever they have to side by them. But I think a lot of those friends are drying up for Charlie, for Harvey, for all of them. I think a lot of their long-standing friends that stood by him for so many years, once Charlie got convicted and then Donna arrested right away. I mean, how many mutual friends of Donna and Harvey are going to stand by him at this point? I'd be really shocked. And friends that were standing by him, that were with Donna there up until the time Charlie got arrested, where are they at? I'd be curious. I'd be interviewing them to find out what they've been saying that whole time. I'm sure there's juicy stuff that'd be probative to show at trial, to show different consciousness of guilt or things like that, comments that they've made. And but I doubt they're going to go to that extreme to go down there and start canvassing their old friends. It would be interesting, and I think it'd be definitely beneficial. At least you'll know either way, right? If you don't try, how do you know? If you're leaving some meat on the bone. Yeah, I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna answer that one question. Yeah, I don't want to give any ideas to help the defense. Jen Rank is asking, do you think the publicity surrounding Charlie's trial led to Donna's arrest? Absent the publicity, do you think any other would have been arrested? That's a good question. That is probably Wow, I don't, we don't know for sure, but I think this attention, the more attention this crime gets, and the fact that there's so much public outrage and passion for justice and belief that the justice is still not done, especially not if we don't have Wendy behind bars. So I think that does affect the prosecution's mindset. So that's very helpful, I think. And like I say, the outpouring of content creators that cover this kind of stuff is really awesome to see, and I think that's helping uh, push them to do the right thing. And I think that's going to be, um, the outcry that's going to happen if they don't arrest Wendy. I don't think they're going to understand that, and they know now that they can get this evidence packaged the right way. It all comes down to packaging, and uh, and they've done a good job, an excellent job, and a brilliant job of packaging all that detailed evidence against Charlie. They just need to do the same thing for Donna, and then go into even more detail with Wendy, and they'll get a conviction. Man, Jane is asking, was Charlie also charged and found guilty of the earlier temporaries paid another set of guys and they took the money? No, we heard about that through some kind of jailhouse informant. No, there's no charge about that whatsoever. We don't know who they were, and if that's actually legitimate truth or not. But that's something we have heard through different channels, but no direct proof of who it was, or perhaps that's in some files we don't have from the prosecution's office. But it remains to be seen. Maybe someday we'll find out for sure. Yeah, Thomas Edison lamp. No, this is John's lamp. He got it overseas. Pretty cool. I like it. All right, let's see. All right, let's see. We have here. Yeah, Amanda Jane again. Yeah, that's you're saying you just realized Luis when Sigfredo called Katie and she said it's done. She said, "I know." Yeah, that kind of information would have came from no one else but Wendy. So that was definitely something I thought that they would have asked from Katie on the stand, but for some reason, maybe she just doesn't remember the conversation. And keep in mind, Luis mentioned this very, what was it, 2 years, less than 2 years after the murder, and now you're asking Katie that many more years after that. So she just may not recall, and that's why they didn't ask it. Okay, Fancy saying Harvey will be there according to my excellent sources. Yeah, I mean, your sources could be very good, Fancy, but on this one here, though, it could be Harvey's telling everybody he's going there, and then he doesn't actually show up. So he could be doing a head fake here, So maybe he'll get sick, or maybe he'll say he has COVID or something, and then he doesn't show up. So why would he be saying that already that he's going to show up? I don't know who these folks are. So I believe you have reliable sources, Fancy. I just don't know they're being faked out by Harvey, so I wouldn't put it past Harvey to do that. And I'm sure he's probably telling Donna he's going to be there, right? But whether he actually shows up or not remains to be seen. But I hope he does, and I hope he's there as a witness too. That'd really shake him up. Cindy is asking, "Will Wendy get a shorter sentence? You think not if you go down to murder one, it's life without parole. If so, there's charges of aiding and abetting a murder, you can be found guilty just as much as the trigger puller. And there's all this evidence that shows she was involved in advanced stages of planning, and the days and the day of the murder and days after the murder, she had her fingerprints and DNA all over it. So I think that's kind of stuff that is not going to lend itself to a lesser sentence and lesser charges." Rosemary, you're asking how much money do you think Charlie and Don are paying in defense attorneys? I think they did a flat fee. And I think that is probably for Charlie. I think it's probably close to $1 million. With Donna, probably something a little bit less than that, maybe 750K. We don't know for sure, but I think it's a flat fee in both instances. And what leads me to believe that is if you have a murder case and you're only doing 3 depositions that we had in Charlie's case and Donna's case, there's no depositions. It also means there's really no defense. There's no new evidence to explore to try to box in. And usually I see that being the case when there's a flat fee, because if it was billable hours, then it'd be trying to figure out ways to interview people, get depositions and all that kind of stuff to build up the fee and get the kind of information. So those are so yeah, and then you're talking about appellate attorneys also. Charlie is probably spending 450,000 or more on his appellate attorney. We don't know. I mean, it could have been a much higher, but it's hard to say what kind of deals they struck. But I mean, you're talking about many hundreds of $1,000s, and you consider what Wendy's paying for her John Lower over the years. So yeah, that's a lot of money. Plus, consider the fact they also had those jury consultants from New York City fly in and did that crazy circus show down there in Tallahassee. So I don't think they're going to do that again. And I think they learned their lesson that they're not really able to predict what's going to happen in Tallahassee with juries there. So, all right. So, yeah, the epitome of watching a train wreck. I agree, Tracy. That's a good one. Yeah. Society page. Charlie's had complete buy-in that he's the maestro. Yeah, I was wondering why they didn't bring up the fact that Charlie had Maestro license plate. That's a little piece of information, but that little nugget there would have really set the tone, I think, also for other stuff they heard about Charlie. Julia, you're saying, remember Jeff said they hated Charlie like a hobby. He got off of planning. I think he really did. I think it was really something that he took a lot of pride in impressing people with his planning. So how'd that planning turn out? I don't know who our current attorney was. It was that Scalzo lady that represented Donna in her initial hearing, and that didn't turn out so well. So I don't know if he's still around, but yeah, that was something else, wasn't it? All right. Yeah, Amanda Jane, that already came up in trial. Judge, the prosecution was trying to bring that up in Charlie's trial, and the judge kept it out. The defense had a motion. The judge decided to keep it out because it could be more inflammatory. You know, what does it really mean by haunting and stuff like that? So I think it would have been it's probably the right move. You don't want to sort of bring up something like that, sort of like superstition and whatnot. So I thought the judge was going to rule that way, and he did rule that way. So I don't think the prosecution's going to bring that up again. They'll probably stipulate to its lack of admissibility. We'll see. Okay. Thanks, Roxanne. Thanks, Roxanne, for giving me a heads up on that. Yeah, I wanted to address it. So I wonder where the country's coming from, because there's a lot of these folks from India, uh, countries like that, Philippines, that get paid to do this kind of PR stunt for defense teams. Oh, hey, Jared, how are you doing? Jared, for those you don't know, he was a friend of, I believe, Dan. Dan Markel's also, I believe, a law grad from Harvard Law School. So yeah, there's folks that recycle through, and so yeah, we definitely appreciate the help in spotting those guys. So glad Jared's also out talking about keeping alive the memory of Dan Markel and what a great father he was. He was a great friend to many folks, very accomplished attorney and professor. So it's great to see he has outstanding friends that stand by him. And it's been going on 10 years now. Okay, Jill, you're saying that's the first time you see me laugh. Well, I would laugh even harder when Rashomon did his opening. So you can look at our channel for that. It was because I was on Survivor for the opening of Charlie's trial, and I was laughing so hard I was actually had tears running down my face. So Zara is my dog is saying, "What is prison in South Dakota like?" You know, where he's at in prison is just like a little over an hour up the road from my hometown, and so it's not going to have the number of gangs and gang affiliations that you have in a Florida prison or Texas prison or California for that matter. But it's nonetheless a dangerous place. There's going to be people going in either from other states as well. There's always gangs there, so it's not a little cozy place. And I've talked about that earlier today. So it's any prison I can tell you is a nasty place to be. It's sort of a creepy, eerie place to be, and you don't ever feel safe there. So, in any event. Black Cat is saying, "Do I think it's possible Wendy sold Dan's family's rings?" Yeah, and I know you're talking about the Holocaust survivors ring that was given to Dan, that who then gave it to Wendy, and because of the deep family ties, and also to the tragedies that the Markel ancestors had to survive through the brutal crimes of hate in Germany. There, you think that the last thing they would do is keep that Wendy would not turn that over, and just not that be a sticking point to have a jury just absolutely despise her behavior. But you know, she just can't help herself. So the hate's going to come through, and that hate is going to make the job of the prosecutors that much easier. So that's the one silver lining in all this, of the boys' denial of visitation and then this family heirloom ring, is that it just is going to make it that much lower of a bar to get the evidence there that you need to get a conviction for Wendy, and also for Donna. I'd bring that up for Donna as well, because they all are scheming this together. It's not an individual thing with Wendy only. So no doubt the way this family operates there, the Florida Adelsons, they're all in it together. Okay. Man, and Jane is saying is that Charlie only being protected until after Wendy's trial, and then they won't care if he gets killed. No, the state prisons don't operate that way, so they're not going to set him up to get whacked. But and Florida did try to get him out of there. They took the threats of him getting his eyes gouged out or whatever it was, and but so in any event. Yeah, I'm so tired. So Charlie was manipulated by Donna, who was manipulated by Wendy's house. So I don't think Wendy had as much direct contact with Charlie in terms of like setting this up as Donna was talked to by Wendy. So Wendy set the chain of events in motion. She's the one that like built a snowball and put it at the top of the mountain and push it down the hill for her, to pick up speed with going by Donna and Charlie and Harvey and all that kind of stuff. So it definitely started with Wendy, and would have stopped with Wendy if she at any point she didn't want it to go through. So yeah, that's definitely the manipulation and pushing was done by Wendy from the get-go. Oh, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Roxanne. That's sweet. Yeah, Lulu, I said that I think she'll be arrested by the end of the year. I think it's going to be very, very short after Donna's trial, very short after, maybe the week of, maybe after she testifies. I don't know, but I would think they're not going to keep dragging this thing out, for crying out loud. It's just gone on way too long. Yeah, isn't that crazy, Taryn? That's a good point. Charlie must have his entire life under review. Imagine doing life because your sister's upset about divorce. I don't think he's still really come to that point that he actually made a decision to be a facilitator and the operational planner for this murder for his sister. I don't think he's really there yet to absorb this and be kicking himself yet. I think he's still in the blame game for everybody else. And it may take a couple more years before he ever does that. Or he may never point the finger at himself and say, how could I be such a fool idiot to get sucked into this thing? All at the urging of Mom and Wendy. Yeah, Julie, I agree. It's outrageous what's happened to the boys and continues. Yeah. So it's an ongoing crime of serious magnitude. What's going on, the way the boys are treated and denied the Markel visitation. So, but you know what? I've been talking about that for what now, over a year, and you know what? Nothing's changed. Nothing is going to get the hatred that the Adelsons have against the Markels to let the boys have better chance of visitation. So that's why we need that conviction, and we need them now as fast as we can, so that they need to ratchet up their pressure and their hustle in getting these charges processed. Yes, All Pony, you're asking, do you think the whole Harvey and Donna have politicians in high places would have been different if Danny was American? Does USA have duty to prosecute for non-citizens? Yeah, I think that the fact that anybody in the country, that's not something prosecutors look at here. I know when I was stationed, like in Italy, if somebody would kill, let's say, somebody from Africa, they don't consider that really a true murder. And I know that when I was there in near Vicenza, Italy, near Venice, that there was a case that I had represented a soldier that hit an African that was there. I don't know if he's there legal or not. I I don't think that would have mattered. But I was told that basically for the Italians, he wasn't really prosecuted much at all, and that was because they don't value other people's lives there as non-citizens. And so anyway, I thought that was surprising. But here in America, no, that's totally different. A lot of prosecutions still happen the same, regardless of what the status is for non-citizens. In fact, in the military, I can assure you that there's a lot of prosecutions for soldiers if they didn't exactly to the T comply with rules of engagement on when they can and cannot fire at opposing enemy, that they would bring them up on murder charges. So I've had a client before that was brought up on murder charges for taking part in something that led to him being charged with murder. And I rotated out of Italy before that went to conclusion. He was charged up in Germany, so I don't know how that one came out because I had a substitute with another attorney. But yeah, it was so definitely there's a lot of aggressive prosecution, regardless of somebody's status. I've seen here in the United States, multiple different states and federal military forums. So, but I do think that. So I don't think that was an issue that Danny was American in terms of the lack of politics or the fact that his status alone. But I do think the politicians' connections that the Adelsons had was a key factor, as well as I think just the locality of it. If you don't have family members that are there in Tallahassee reminding the locals that justice hasn't been done and they're out of the country, it's sort of like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. So I think that has worked to the disadvantage of the Markels, and I think that's why it's important for this channel and other channels to keep being a voice for justice for the Markels, because it's harder for them to do it when they're not there. And so we as Americans need to stand up and help our American law enforcement do the right thing. And like I say, it's not an issue. It doesn't matter where Dan was naturalized or not. It doesn't matter if he was here on a green card. It doesn't matter anyone's status. If it was a cold-blooded murder, the guilty people need to be prosecuted. In a story. New York Patriot lady, hi there. You're saying I called it what Charlie would experience in prison. What are your predictions for Donna and Wendy? Yeah, for females, it's going to be a little bit different. They don't have as many of the violent people there. Donna is supposedly doing pretty good in jail right now. She's letting people use her tablet and she's able to make some connections with folks. But prison is going to be a different story. There's going to be a lot more issues of threat and violence there. So I think she's not going to have anywhere near the same kind of life and death threats that Charlie is. But It could be rough for her. I just don't have I don't have any client experience being having females clientele being sent to state prison. And for Wendy, I think the same kind of thing. Um, so I think that probably be doing things that would not put them in such extreme risk as Charlie would. I think Charlie, like I say, is going to be uh, experiencing life threats on a regular basis. And so I don't see that for Wendy and Donna, but I do think that there's potential for some threats and violence there. And they may stay in Florida, unlike Charlie. So yeah, Casey in Texas, I agree. Her goal is to erase Markells from the children's life. If I was the prosecution, I also bring up how soon after the murder that Wendy filed that uh, court filing to change the boy's name from Markel, which is their father's last name, to Adelson, which is Wendy's last name. And she actually checked on the block. I've seen that form that she filed. The block was actually checked saying that she's returning the boy's name to the original name, which was not the case at all. Right. Yeah, Mel, you're saying that Donna said Charlie was a likable guy, quote unquote, when he testified. Yeah, I mean, I don't, they're taking it, they're biased because that's a family member and they want to believe that. They don't know what a good witness comes across like or not. They don't know how to size up. They don't have any experience knowing how a jury's going to review that kind of stuff. But there's never doubt in my mind that there was that he was terrible as a witness, absolutely destroyed himself. Donna didn't even have to do a cross examination. That's how bad it was. Yeah, Jared Ross is saying there Ben Graber's been awfully quiet. Maybe the checks have stopped clearing. Yeah, that was a weird thing, the way the guy stuck his neck out like that. Very strange. So Ben Graber was a doctor, hadn't been in contact with the Adelsons for like 35, 40 years. Then he came out doing all his ravings, talks, and making what was it? Commentary to news stations and newspapers saying how great the Adelsons were and that this is not them and they're innocent and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really really bizarre stuff for somebody that didn't know him for so many years. So it made you wonder, is the guy being paid to say that as well? No, I've not seen Ruth on that channel, but I heard that she was. Okay, true crime wifey, you're saying that it's frustrating for local people. Jimmy James P. Judkins was Wendy's attorney in 2014 who called ISOM. She did not retain John Lower till later. No, I'm not a troll. Okay, well, I do not. I've never heard of that before. So if you can tell me the source you got that information, I'm trying to remember if they said exactly it was John Law or not. So you may be correct on that. So if I stand corrected, I apologize. But I'd like to know where you got that information. So whether it's Laura or not, the fact is she had an attorney call. That was the most important, not which attorney, but an attorney for when he called up ISOM, minutes after her phone's drops. So that's the key point. That's a key takeaway. So yeah, that's not really a big issue if it was Laura or not. But needless to say, she's hiring an attorney that fast after Dan Markel's been murdered. So yeah, that's highly suspicious. All right. Oh yeah, this Byron. Yeah, this is really something. Yeah, if any of you've seen Amber Heard testify, I mean, she's absolute train wreck. Um, Wendy, if she testifies in her own trial, yeah, she's going to be like up there with Amber Heard, just an absolute worst case scenario of a witness and self imploding kind of witness and defendant. So it's going to make it that much easier for the prosecution. That'll seal their case against her. Any Adelson testifies, it's game over. You automatically won the case. Doesn't matter what they throw up there. They're going to throw up some weird story and automatically That weird story is going to have to be buttressed and proven up by an Adelson. And Adelsons aren't credible. They actually self-destruct on the witness stand, and you don't even need to cross-examine them. That's how terrible they are, because it's all a pack of lies, and the jury can see right through that. Yeah, the gardener, you're saying, what hope is there for boys who have visited their murderous uncle in jail? They have not visited him. I think they talked to him, and so there's a difference there. They think he's the best uncle. So sad. Yeah, remember that comment Wendy had written on. Sorry about that. Remember when he put up something saying "world's greatest uncle" for the boys on some kind of thing she put on her Facebook, I believe it was. So yeah, that was after the murder happened. Yeah, so I would probably put that up there as well in Wendy's trial. All right, so we're about 2 hour mark, so I think I'm going to be wrapping it up here. And let me see, I'm at the 9:35 mark. So let me go a little bit further here down. More recent question. I'm so tired is asking, how do these people still have money when they're not rich? Well, they were doing a lot of different business ventures, and so they had like 8 million in the bank among them. So that was a lot of money back then, especially. So they had a lot of money at their disposal, and so it wasn't all just from dentistry work. I can guarantee you that dentists do not make that kind of money, So Charlie had a lot of side businesses. They did a lot of different stock trades and stuff like that. So all right, let's see here. Charlie Burrow in Germany saying, "I'm glad when the saga will be over. Every time I hear the name Charlie, I jump." Yeah, I guess it's unreal. It's unreal how this case has worked out, and it's just very sad, especially for the boys. It's like I say, an ongoing crime. But thanks to you all for being there, supporting the Markells. They really are wonderful people. They really appreciate your guys' passionate support for them. And if you go to the trial, I'm sure you'll get to meet them as well. That was one of the benefits when I went down there for the to hear the closing arguments for Donna. I got to meet all the the Markells that were there, and I got to see Charlie in court, by the way. But that wasn't impressive. I didn't care whether I saw him or not. It really wasn't just. I knew he was going down, and it's really a sad thing. Yeah, so Aunt Nancy, Wendy could actually get arrested during Donna's trial. Yeah, it's a possibility. I would hope it'd be no later than that, but it may be after the trial, so it remains to be seen. But I hope it's in the next 100 days or less, right? You mentioned Charlie seemed drugged during his trial. Yes, I did. What kind of drugs do you think would be permitted? I don't know what they have there in Tallahassee, but it just seemed like he was just a little too looped up on something. Maybe it was one of his infamous Xanax that he likes popping. But yeah, he just definitely seemed too calm, too talkative, too disrespectful of the court. The way he talked, flippant and arrogant. It was just absolute cringe. I mean, I've never seen really a murdered any kind of felony defendant act that arrogant and flippant in a trial at all. I mean, it was just so bad. Okay, thanks, Society Page. You're saying tonight's trolls are kind of quaint. You've seen worse lately. Yeah, I have tuned. So thanks for getting rid of the trolls here for my mods. Yeah, that's isn't that something? Is it all worth it? I mean, gosh, just think of the misery and all the kids suffering. Charlie then had a kid, and he now doesn't see his dad. And I mean, how's that going to mess him up? Yeah, Joy, we don't know for sure. Hold on. Joy, we don't know if she's moving, and she could always change her mind. So that we can't say for certainty what's going to happen there. Remains to be seen. Okay, Tracy Griss, genuine question. What is the percentage in your mind that Wendy started this whole horrible mess, was unaware of the actual murder for hire done? Sometimes I wonder. Well, you don't have to wonder because the whole time that Jeff Lacasse was set up to be a fall guy, think about it. That was the same time Charlie was working Katie to find the hitman and setting her up to be taken care of for life by facilitating the murder of Jeff, excuse me, of Dan Markel. So I think that the more you look at the Jeff Lacasse scenario and you talk about what she was doing that all the days leading up to it, how she acted driving to the crime scene, not worrying about the kids, you add up all those things. And even Charlie himself, look at all the times, listen to the jail calls of Charlie himself saying, what are the odds? That looks so bad. It makes him look guilty. It makes all the Adelsons look guilty, of the Florida Adelsons, that is, because of the fact that she went to the crime scene just over an hour after the murder attempt happened. So you just don't have those kind of coincidences unless you were part of the planning, and you don't set up somebody to dump them like days before to make them look like the angry, jilted lover to try to go after the source of all her pain to try to win her back. I mean, that was the narrative she was willing to do and trying to do. So, um, yeah, there's so many indicators there. So if you're asking what a percentage there is, why don't you go back and look at the 100 plus indicators, and I can tell you in real life, you don't have a couple of those indicators that could be innocent. Then you start stacking them up, dozen after dozen after dozen after dozen. Then you go over 100, and I could even build that a list up to 200, probably if you start including all the lies. So anyway, if that's a legitimate question, I'll take it as that. But that's what I got to say for that. You need to do your homework, and you'll see exactly why people are fuming mad about why more Adelsons aren't arrested. Yeah, I think they got enough to arrest Harvey, so I think that they're gonna hopefully do that same time as they arrest Donna. It remains to be seen, but hopefully they'll be that bold. Georgia's an awesome woman. Yes, she is a great person. How can you not like her? I think that if uh, if she's unleashed to go after these other Adelsons, along with her partner Sarah Dugan, then I think that everything will work out just fine and justice will happen. Carolina, no, we have not seen the witness list yet. She'll be coming out pretty soon here. Yeah, Kathy, that's pretty much sums it up. Wendy played the whole family, left them holding the bag, and she gets off with all their money and possessions. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. That's how it's how it's worked thus far, but it's not going to be how the last chapter of the book is written. Practice kindness. Do you think Wendy didn't charge us so that she could look extra innocent if they did a gun residue test on her? Yeah, I mean, dressing like you're working out in the garden, and then you're saying you're running late to meet your friends, then you do all these other errands, and I mean, none of it adds up. It's just absolutely bizarre, strange, and all that stuff just makes it look like those kind of things. And that's what a jury would come to conclusions is, yeah, why is she dressing that way? And one of the things I would do as a prosecutor, I go to such details, and also as a defense attorney, but I'd go to detail and say, has she ever shown up that way to meet her friends for lunch that way? And dressed like she was looking in the interview. And I would guess that her friends would say, no, she's never done that before. But in any event, yeah, Carmen Sandana had dual citizenship. Yeah. So it's just the fact that he doesn't have any surviving local contacts there. I think that's made it hurtful as a counterweight against all the Adelson's super top high end political connections that ran interference. Yeah, Carolina, So yeah, we don't know if Wendy's. We do think she's in contact with her dad, and I think that the information was that he was probably going to go there with her to Austin, but we don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. Now that this is publicly out there in the public domain, so it remains to be seen. Jen Rank, I agree. How is it possible no one in the Adelson family considered long-term implications? They thought that they could outsmart everybody. They thought that their political ties would keep them isolated from the Barney Fife type knucklehead law enforcement up in that Hicktown, Tallahassee. So they just thought they're above all this. Okay, Julie Nelson, I anticipate that Donna will be hard to control and stand by Rashomon and his told counsel. Are you asking me? Okay, I think that it remains to be seen. I'm trying to think, would Donna be controllable as a witness? I think that I think she's going to be a lot better than she was at that hearing where she was out of control, making all those scoffing comments, rolling her eyes, and the judge had to her reprimand her and tell her to be quiet. So I just think that I think she's probably learned to try to get along better. So I think she'll do a lot better. But I'm sure in Roshbaum's mind she's going to score 95 like Charlie did. But in reality, she'll be torpedoed by her own words. If she doesn't show up to the trial, it would take probably several days to go get her apprehended, brought into court, and transferred. So, yeah, it'd be several day process. So, hopefully, it wouldn't hold up the trial too long if she doesn't show up. But I think she will show up. I don't think she's willing to risk that unless she leaves the country for good and just says, "I'm not going to cooperate anymore with this." So it remains to be seen. But I think she'll show up to her mom's trial. I think she's too scared of what Judge Everett said the last time that he's ready to go have uh, Harvey and Donna brought in basically in cuffs all the way from South Florida up to Tallahassee. Yeah, that's true. I'm so tired. The older son, whose name is Rob, Dr. Rob Adelson, most honorable U.S. citizen, doing great work as a MD up in the New York area, I believe. So yeah, he had the foresight to leave at a different time. He left when there was when he's getting grief about who he could marry or not marry and that kind of stuff, and then when he had the conversation, as I understand it, a conversation with his family after the murder of Dan Markel, what they said and did led him to believe that absolutely he had to cut off all contact. So yeah, I think he's a key witness, and how sad it must be for him to be put in that position. But he was on the witness list before, so hopefully they'll pull the trigger and do it this time. And wouldn't that be something that Donna's on trial? And what if she had Wendy testifying against her, and then the doctor son Rob testifying against her? And also, what if they call Charlie as a witness? So yeah, that's man, what a hot mess that they never dreamed possible. Charlie never thought that was possible as an operational planner. Yeah, Callie's asking why there's no depositions. Well, they have a right to depositions. Maybe they figure, well, we already know what the evidence is. We don't need to talk to anybody this time. But in any event, I just think that that's something that's signed to me that they don't think there's a lot there to work with also. And so I think all right, John Lucas, that comment is totally inappropriate. So talk about how attractive you are to Wendy Adelson. That I'm going to delete something like that. So mods, please help me out on that. So she's an undecoded conspirator, and so that's just, you don't need to insult people that are watching this, including the Markells who do follow this channel different times. So you don't need to be that kind of a person on this. Yeah, I think, okay, thanks. I think that was a person I just zapped. So okay, so you know what that means? It means that we're being effective that we're making a difference. You all are making a difference because they don't like us talking about it. And this kind of stuff brings focus for justice on the Markells. And that's what Adelsons don't want. They don't want the Adelsons being mentioned all in the public domain. They don't want people demanding justice happen and more prosecutions happen. So anyway. Yeah, Cindy, that's interesting. She was, you're saying that Wendy was so flippant in her book, saying she lacked passion for someone she chose to marry. Her poor kids having to read that. Yeah, that basically that's what she was talking about. And remember in Charlie's trial, she said that she was talking about a friend of hers. That's who the key person was based upon, this mother and wife. But in the actual book acknowledgement, she said it's modeled after her own life, right? So that's another lie that could have been brought out that Wendy uh, was able to skirt around and Georgia not call her out on it. Yeah, thanks, John and Ben again. And it's John, actually Ben's birthday tonight, so otherwise Ben would be here. So uh, thanks to Ben and all his great support and getting this new studio set up as well. And happy birthday. Yeah, and Session 101 and Jack Campbell, you're saying had info that no one knows about. Yeah, and that's why it's anybody that's saying there's not enough evidence to prosecute uh, and get the conviction on Wendy, you're actually ignoring the other evidence that we have not even talked about yet, and that we know that Jack Campbell said exists out there. So to make a definitive statement saying there's not enough when there's already enough out there in the domain, let's say you don't want to accept that premise, for you to sit there and say there is not enough and she never will be, means you're completely rejecting what Jack Campbell has said, which he has said that there is more evidence that the public is not aware of. And so you cannot make that as a conclusionary statement with any accuracy at all. So it almost like you don't want to know the truth. So okay, I don't know what you guys are talking about here. Sorry, I'm been jumping ahead of comments here. So yeah, John, circle back with me. And so we're 10:15. All right, so I went a little longer here than I normally do. So with that, folks, thanks again for supporting this cause. Appreciate any of you new followers to this case. Please do your homework. You'll really be baffled and astounded by how this brazen crime, this egregious, heinous murder case happened, and how they've gotten away with it for so long, for so many years. So many twists and turns in it have happened so far, and there'll be more to come in the coming months as well. So stay tuned, and look to see you back here soon again. Thanks for the cause. Appreciate you all.